Hello. So in this video we are going to start with some basic theory of antennas. So this is not just limited to microstream antennas or any specific antennas. So antennas as a whole. So this is the outline of the talk. Introduction, review of some basic antenna types. Then we will discuss radiation pattern, gain, polarization, equivalent circuit and radiation efficiency, smart antennas, and some theory and some summary of the whole talk. So let's begin. So when we talk about antennas, right, so what comes to our mind? So it transmits and receives signals, right? Now we know that we have used our headphones as antennas to receive some signal or the FM radio signal when we listen to FM radio in our mobiles. So you can see that just a headphone can act like an antenna, and it can be any headphone. It can be of any length, it can be of any size. If you connect the headphone to your mobile, then it acts like an antenna. So if the antenna is so simple, then why we have to like so much study and research about antennas, right? So here comes one interesting point. There is something called intended radiators and unintended radiators. So what is intended and unintended? So antenna are intended, right? So basically what is an antenna? Antenna is a transducer. So you know what is a transducer? So a transducer is a device that converts one form of energy to other form. Now when we talk about antennas, antennas converts an electromagnetic wave to electric signal. When we talk about a receive antenna, so it receives the electromagnetic waves that propagates through, it does not require any media, but which propagates through the atmosphere to the circuit, and the circuit only understands the electrical currents and voltages. So it converts the electromagnetic waves into electrical signal. Similarly, if we use an antenna to transmit something, then inside our circuit we have some electrical signals, and it converts the electrical signals to electromagnetic waves. So in both way it acts like a transducer. So antennas intended to produce specified EM fields. Now when we make an antenna, when we design an antenna, so it is supposed to produce some specified EM fields only. For example, if you see radio communication antennas or measuring antennas or EM sensors, probes, EM applications like industrial, medical, scientific, all have some specific frequencies, right? All have some specific frequencies. For example, in your mobile phone there are separate antennas for 2G, 3G, 4G and all. So there may be separate antennas or there may be a multi-band antenna. Multi-band antenna is the same antenna which can transmit or receive at multiple frequencies, but that will only act at a particular frequency. For example, there is antenna inside your mobile, but that antenna is not capable of receiving the FM signal, because the FM signal has a much larger wavelength, and we will discuss it later, but that is how it works. When we talk about antenna, if the size of the antenna is very large, then it receives or transmits signal which is comparable to the wavelength of that size. So when inside mobile phone we receive signals in gigahertz scale. So we know that for gigahertz the size is in centimeter scale, the wavelength is in centimeter scale. So our antennas are very small inside the mobile phones. But if we talk about some lower frequencies, for example when we talk about FM radios, then we need some larger antennas. So radiators not intended to generate any EM field, but producing it as an unintended side effect. For example, if you connect anything like let me give you a practical example. Earlier we have seen that before the evolving of this digital cable TV, like nowadays we all use digital cable TV. We have the set-top box and we get the signal from either a DTH connection or a public cable connection. So this is digital. So but earlier this was purely analog. At that time we did not require any set-top box to be installed at home. So at that time what happened, the cable itself acted like an radiator. The cable radiated the energy, and some people could receive that signal using some unfair means. They used some sort of a receiving antenna near the cable, and they plugged it to the TV, and they could easily enjoy the TV programs without paying any money to the cable operator. So in case of digital, the signal is in an encoded form, and that is the reason why the TV cannot directly decode the signal. You need a set-top box. The set-top box convert the encoded signal to some other signal that can be received by the TV. But the problem is still there. The cable is not supposed to radiate, but it radiates. That is why it is an unintended radiator. Or if you look at this, whenever in our laboratory, if we connect a probe with our bare hand, we get the 60 Hertz signal in the CRO. This is because our human body acts like a receiver, and all the wirings of our house acts like some unintended radiators. So these are all various unintended radiators. If any conductor is an antenna, but it does not necessarily transmit or receive energy at a useful frequency. So that is all about unintended radiators. So you can see here any conductor installation with varying electric current, anything where the electric current is flowing, like the wiring of our house, any slot or opening in the screen of a device capable of carrying RF current. Now this is important. If this is an RF, so radio frequency, that means the wavelength is much smaller. If we talk about our wiring, it carries only 60 Hertz signal. So the wavelength is much larger. So it does not reflect much of an energy. And since, if we talk about RF devices like the cable TV, then any opening in the cable or any opening in the device, any slot, any like everything, if something is broken, from there also the electromagnetic wave will radiate. Any discontinuity in transmission medium, and for example conducting structures or insulation irradiated by EM waves. So anything that has some something is broken or something is bent, that also acts like an antenna. Next, see what is the purpose of an antenna. So transformation of guided EM waves in transmission line or waveguide into freely propagating EM wave in space or vice versa. So what is guided wave? Guided waves means inside the transmission line. So as you have studied in transmission line theory, if you have studied, then if you have not studied, then you can check it. If you study the transmission line theory, then there is a difference between how electromagnetic waves propagate in a guided medium. So transmission line basically is a guided medium. Similarly, waveguide is a guided medium. So these are all guided medium. And what happens? These guided mediums are used to feed the antenna. For example, the dish antenna. We have a specific coaxial cable, which is a transmission line, and the coaxial cable feeds the dish antenna. So this is how the guided medium. So transformation of guided EM wave in transmission line to freely propagating EM wave in space. So if it is a transmit antenna, then the electromagnetic waves in the guided wave will be released at the antenna, or vice versa. Vice versa means if it is a receiving antenna like your DTH connection, then it is receiving the signal at the antenna and sending it through the guided medium. So transformation from the time function in one-dimensional space into time function into three-dimensional space. So if you look at the transmission line, it is a one-dimensional equation. So I am not going to discuss the mathematics of it, but if you remember, then in transmission line we talk about one dimension. The electromagnetic wave is propagating in one dimension. Obviously, if it is a waveguide, then it is three-dimensional case. But in that case also, the electromagnetic wave is propagating in one direction only. The specific form of radiated wave is defined by the antenna structure and the environment. So we are going to discuss this in details, how the radiated wave, the shape of the radiative wave or the frequency of the radiating wave depends upon the structure of the antenna. Next, antenna function. So what is the functions of the antenna? Transmission line. So the power transport medium must avoid power reflection, otherwise use matching devices. So what is this? So antenna function. So first of all, how can we connect this transmission line into the antenna, right? So power transport medium. So we transport the electromagnetic wave in a transmission line into the radiator, right? So you can see transmission line, these are the main function. So first thing is, if we talk about a radiating antenna, then first of all our signal is in the transmission line, and from transmission line we will feed the antenna, right? So the power transport medium which avoid power reflections otherwise used mesh devices. So what happens, from our set-top box to the dish TV or the dish antenna, we use a transmission line. We cannot use a normal cable. If we use a normal cable, or normal, not a coaxial cable, but normal wires that we use for wiring at our home, so we cannot use that. Even if you remember, earlier TVs had Yagi antennas, and in case of Yagi antenna also there was a specific kind of cable which was used for connecting the TV with the Yagi antenna. So that specific kind of cable was also a two-wire transmission line. So that transmission line must be used, and the transmission line, the capacity of the transmission line depends upon the size of the transmission line and at what frequency it is operating. Then comes the radiator. Next point we missed it. Otherwise use matching devices. So if sometimes what happens, there is some I think you have studied about impedance matching. So we know that when we use some cable to power a device, then the impedance of the two things should match properly. That means the if you look at as a because I cannot draw it here, but if you look at a Thevenin equivalent circuit, then the two impedances should properly match. The input impedance should be equal to the complex conjugate of the load impedance. That condition must be matched in order to obtain efficient radiation. Next comes radiator. Must radiate in efficiently, because the again radiation efficiency is another broad topic in antenna design. So the radiator is the main radiating part or the main antenna, and it should radiate very efficiently. Must be of size comparable with the half wavelength. So this is what I already discussed. The size of the antenna depends upon the size of the frequency at which it is intended to be used. Next comes resonator. It is something unavoidable for broadband applications. Resonance must be attenuated. So there is something called a resonator. Actually what happens, if you study the in communication systems, if you have studied the basics of a receiver, then you must have seen that just after the antenna we use a LC tank circuit. So we know that the LC tank circuit is a resonator. So what happens, a resonator provides a very high amplitude at one particular frequency. So when we have a receive antenna, then we must use a resonator. So the resonator, actually what happens, the antenna receives multiple frequencies. You cannot design an antenna that only receive one frequency. It will receive multiple frequencies, but our circuit should get only that particular frequency in which we are interested in or which is useful for us. So for that there is something called resonators, and the resonator will make sure that out of the large band received by the antenna, only some specific band goes to the circuit. Okay, so let's talk about monopoles. So okay, these are the type of antenna actually. So we talk about monopole antenna. So monopole antenna is the most common antennas. So let me show you something. Okay, so if you look at this is a dipole antenna, the most very common antenna. So if you look at this is dipole antenna. So this is a feeder that feeds the antenna, and these are the two openings, right? So dipole antenna. So this is the feed, and in this way we get the pattern. Okay, it's not very useful. So basically by looking at this you can understand. This is a nice video. So as you can see, from the antenna it works like this, the wave flows like this. This is how the wave radiates from a dipole antenna, or maybe this one. As you can see here, this is the field line and this is the E field, and the H field is perpendicular to this. It is not shown here. The voltage, as the voltage fluctuates, and this is exactly half wavelength. This is exactly half wavelength, and when we have a half wavelength dipole, it works like this. So we can see that as the voltage changes, so changes the electric field, and when this electric field changes, then we get something like this, the radiation like this, right? I hope you have understood. As the electric field changes, then it starts to radiate like this, and a very complex pattern is formed actually. Now what is monopole? So a dipole is a very complex thing, because we need two separate conductors like this, right? We need two separate conductors which should be excited at one point, and the length of these two should be exactly equal. But what happens in electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic fields, we have something called an image theory. So if I can get it, let me show you. Okay, so this is a monopole antenna. This is a monopole antenna, right? This is another picture, which is lambda by 4. Earlier this was lambda by 2 for dipole, and this is lambda by 4. So what happens in monopole antenna? We have something called a ground plane, and on the top of the ground plane we have the antenna. So the ground plane actually acts as a metallic sheet, and in case of electromagnetic fields, we can see that a metal acts like a reflector. Just like if a person is standing on the top of a mirror, then you can see two persons, right? One person is the person, and one person is the image of the person. Or if we have a tube light on the top of a mirror, then we are getting light from two different tube lights. I think there is a better example. So if we have a like this is a tube light, so this is a long tube light, and this is a short tube light, right? So if we have a short tube light and on the top of a mirror, then on the mirror there will be another tube light. So what will happen? This is one tube light, and on the mirror there will be another tube light. So this will give you almost as much power or as much radiation or as much light as this long tube light. So this is the basic fundamental concept of monopole antennas. So in monopole antennas what happens? So as you can see here, this is the transmission line and this is the ground plane, right? So this is the ground plane and this is lambda by 4, not lambda by 2, and this helps us to reduce the size of the antenna significantly, because earlier it was lambda by 4 and now it is lambda by 2. So earlier it was lambda by 2, now it is lambda by 4. So the size has become half. So this is the primary advantage of using a monopole, and the monopole usually works at a very narrow band or high Q. As you know that the Q quality factor or Q factor is inversely proportional to bandwidth, just like any band pass filter. So coming back to this, now you see in this video, in this slide we have this one more design of the monopole. So in this case, this is a low Q or broadband. So if the bandwidth is high, then the quality factor will be low. So if we see here, it happens sharply, right? Sharply there was a transmission line and suddenly it becomes ground plane, or the outer conductor becomes ground plane and the inner conductor becomes the antenna. But if we have a more smooth transition region, that means the ground plane slowly becomes the outer conductor of the transmission line slowly becomes a ground plane, or you can say this is a coaxial cable. The outer conductor slowly becomes a ground plane, and the inner conductor slowly becomes an antenna. So if this is a smooth transition region, then we get a higher bandwidth or broadband. So this happens because of the structure, because see, if we look at this shape, so this shape can be said to be that there will be many frequencies at which this will act like a mirror, and this will have lambda by 4. There you can draw a number of lines for different lambda by 4, right? So this is the reason why this will act over a larger bandwidth, and so this will have a low Q factor. So if there is an inhomogeneity or obstacle, a reflected wave, standing wave, and higher field modes appear. So again, if there is any obstacle, like if there is a drop here, so with pure standing wave, the energy is stored and oscillates from entirely electric to entirely magnetic back. So this is all about the theory of antennas and electromagnetic waves. So I am not going to discuss in details about all these things, but I think I have given you some basic introduction to what is a dipole antenna, what is a monopole antenna, and how these things basically work, right? So let's move on to the basic antenna types, and now I am going to be a bit faster because I have to cover this whole PPT. So these are the various types of antenna that we can use. So this is a helical antenna. So this is, although it looks like a resistor, but this is basically a spiral structure, and this is actually a variant of the monopole, because when this becomes too long, then what happens, it becomes unstable. So in many places we use this kind of a helical structure, and on the top of the helical structure you will see usually there will be a plastic cap. So if you have seen the long monopole antennas in a Wi-Fi router or in a walkie-talkie, that is usually a helical antenna. So actually the length is lambda by 4 only, but since it is helical, so the physical length becomes small, and this becomes advantageous for low frequency applications. Similarly, we have something called chip antenna. So chip antenna is a very small chip antenna. Is a very small antenna that can be put on that surface. Then we have something called slot antenna. So slot antenna is basically a conductor is there, and on the top of the conductor there is some slot, and it works like a antenna. Then I have something called INF antenna, or the inverted F antenna. So this is kind of antenna used in old 2G mobile phones. Then we have the traditional slot antenna. So you can see here, this is a metallic structure, and here we have a slot and we have a feeding line. So this acts like a antenna. So we have these various types of the sleeve dipole. So sleeve dipole has this kind of structure. So this is a conductor, and instead just like we have seen earlier, so instead of the metallic structure, we have actually this sleeve dipole or sleeve monopole. You have seen, I am sure, the old FM radios where you have an antenna that can be pulled, right? You must have seen that in old FM radios there were some antennas that is initially very short, but we have to pull it. So that kind of antennas are called sleeve dipole or sleeve monopole antenna. Then this is the traditional dipole antenna, and this is a patch antenna or microstrip antenna that is used in various electric circuits. The advantage of this microstrip antenna is that it can be fabricated on a PCB board along with some other circuits. Then we have something called Yagi-Uda antenna. So Yagi-Uda antenna is this is named after two scientists, Yagi and Uda, who invented this antenna almost simultaneously. So this is, you can see, this is actually a folded dipole. This is not a normal dipole, but this is a folded dipole. You will see that either at this point or this point there is a split, and the split we put the two conductors, the two ends of the conductor or transmission line, and the other end is joint. So this is a whole loop. You can see this is a whole loop, and this is called a folded dipole antenna, or you can also call it a loop antenna. Although this is not a purely loop antenna, but this more or less a loop antenna. And we have something called on this side, these lines are called directors, and this is called the reflector. Usually the length of the reflector is larger than the dipole, and the length of the directors are smaller than the dipole. So if the electromagnetic wave comes here, so basically it will take a gradual step like this, and it will resonate here. So director will make sure that the antenna, or if it is a transmitting antenna, then it will go like this. It will go along this direction, because this is gradually you are reducing the size. So let me show you a better picture of the Yagi antenna. Yagi Uda antenna or Yagi antenna. So this is a pure antenna, you can see here. So you can see this is the dipole, and slowly the length is multiple directors are there. So this is slowly reducing. So the wave will ultimately take this kind of a shape. From here it will go like this, and this reflector will make sure that no wave goes back, because this will act like a reflector. So the wave will going in this direction will be reflected back. So this is called a reflector. So here it is connected. Although this is not a folded dipole, this is normal dipole, but these are in case there are two reflectors. So the reflectors will make sure that the wave will go in this direction and not in this direction. If any wave goes in this direction, that will be reflected back in this direction. So this is called reflectors, and these are called directors. Then this is with patch and slot antennas have derived from printed circuits and microstrip antennas. The inverted F antenna is another antenna. So this is the inverted F antenna. You can see this inverted F antenna was popularly used in old 2G phones. This is the some theory about INF antenna. So and slot antenna. So slot antenna, a slot is cut from a large or a metal plate. So I've already told these things. So what is a slot antenna and INF antenna? Patch and slot antennas are cheap and easy to fabricate. So just like a PCB fabrication, just like we make circuits in PCB board, similarly we can make a slot antenna like this. Then we have something called aperture antenna. So the aperture antenna is derived from waveguide technology. So you can see here this is a aperture antenna. So this is a waveguide, and on the top of the waveguide we have a aperture or opening. Aperture means there is a hole or opening. That is called aperture. So it is a FM wave or any wave, EM wave. Any electromagnetic wave enters through the aperture or hole, and it is directed through the waveguide. So the power density is PFD, or the watt per meter square. So this is called area. A is the area. So you can see the power, PFD means power flux density. Okay, power flux density. So the power density or power flux density. So total power is given by area into PFD. Right? This should be A. P is the power absorbed. This should be P equal to A into PFD. So this is the power flux density. So as you know, the flux means number of lines per unit area. So if you multiply the area with the power flux density, you will get the get this total power. So the aperture antenna is derived from waveguide technology and circular, rectangular. These are various types of waveguide that we can have, can transfer high power, or megatrons are there, klystrons are there. So these are some microwave sources, as you have studied, I think, in microwave electronics, or maybe you have done some practicals with klystron. Magnetron is another microwave source which is used in your microwave ovens and many other devices. Then they work in gigahertz scale, because we are using a waveguide, and waveguides are usually microwave devices. So they work in microwave scale or gigahertz scale. Then will be explored, impressed during school. So this is actually, I got this slide from some other source. So then we have something called leaky wave antennas. So this is basically a waveguide, and in the waveguide we have some slits like this, and this slit starts to radiate energy. Similarly, this is also a leaky wave antenna. So this is a leaky wave antenna. Then we have the reflector antenna. Now this is something very important, and these reflectors antennas play a very important role in satellite communication. So reflectors are used to concentrate flux of EM energy radiated or received to change its direction. So this is something very important. So usually they are parabolic or paraboloidal. The first parabolic or cylinder reflector antenna was used by Heinrich Hertz in 1888. So as you know, this is Hertz. The unit of frequency is Hertz, and this is named after this great scientist called Heinrich Hertz. Large reflectors have high gain and directivity and are not easy to fabricate. So they are large antennas, and the smallest parabolic antennas are these antennas that we use for our DTH connections, and they are not mechanically robust. mechanically robust means you cannot carry them with you everywhere you go. Like you install them in a position and you make sure that they don't move. Then typical applications are radio, telescope, then satellite, telecommunication, etc. So we are going to discuss this reflector antennas in details, and for now let's talk about planar reflectors. So as you can see here, so this the concept is same. In this Yagi antenna we told that there is a reflector, right? So this is just a single wire which acts like a reflector. But if we replace this by a plane, then what will happen? Suppose we have this dipole antenna, and behind the dipole antenna we have a plane or metallic plane. Then this will make sure that no energy is propagating in the direction, that energy will be reflected back, right? This is the director. So this will make sure that, or the Yagi, or this log periodic antenna is another antenna which is basically look like a Yagi antenna, but the distance between the directors are not linear but logarithmic. That's why that is called log periodic antenna. So this is important. So you make sure that your wave is concentrated in one direction. The intended reflector antenna allows maintaining radio link in non-LOS condition or avoiding propagation obstacles. So you can use, so this is another reflector use. See, you can see here, suppose you want that the wave from this antenna goes in this direction, but there is an obstacle here. So if you radiate in this direction, then the energy will be reflected back in this direction, but you are putting an intended reflector. So this intended reflector, what it will do is that the wave that is coming from the antenna will be directed in this direction, just like putting a mirror here. So unintended antennas create interference. So this should be unintended reflectors. So how does it happen? So suppose some energy goes towards this direction. Now this is an unintended reflector. Now the wave will get reflected from here and go in this direction. Now this and this will definitely create some interference. So this is what it is said about. Next comes to be paraboloidal reflector. So this is antenna. So I am sure that you have studied about lens, like concave lens and convex lens. So the same concept applies in case of paraboloidal reflectors. So as you can see here, this is the feed. You can imagine that this is a torch, right? If you use this torch, then what will happen? It is here at the focus. So we know that if it is a concave mirror and we have a source or a object at the focus, then the image will be a real image at infinity. Similarly, if an object is at infinity or lines parallel coming like this, then they will concentrate at the focus. So at the focus we have the feed antenna, and we make sure that the wave goes in like this. Then this focus is at the axis, so therefore this is called axial feed. So if we draw a line like this will be the axis and this is the focus, and here we have an antenna. So suppose this is what we use in case of DTH. So we know that the wave comes from the artificial satellites which are far away from our Earth. So the lines, field lines coming from the satellites are parallels. So if the object is at infinity, then the lines are parallel. So the parallel lines will come and they will get concentrated at the focus, and at the focus we have the feed antenna, or in case of this antenna we use a horn antenna here, and that is the actual antenna. It is either a horn antenna or the aperture antenna. So this is the actual antenna which receives the energy. So the light comes like this, get reflected here, and we at this point we get a very concentrated amount of energy, because the satellite is very much far away from Earth and the signal is very weak. So it is important for us to concentrate that energy at a single point so that the power is high. Similarly, we can have something called off-axis or offset feed. So what happens in this case? So we are not using, now here we use put this feeder at the axis, but this time it is not at the axis, it is the off axis. Similarly, there can be something called Cassegrain. So in Cassegrain, this feed is here. Actually what happens, this is a concave mirror or concave antenna, this. So the line will go here and get reflected here, right, at the focus. Now at the focus we have another convex secondary reflector. So this convex secondary reflector will focus the wave here. So this is a bit complex, but I hope you understand. So light will come from here, get reflected here and get received here. Similarly, there is something called Gregorian. Here what they do is that again this is another arrangement. Here the secondary surface also a concave surface. So it is positioned in such a way that the ultimately the wave gets concentrated here. So the largest radio telescope, this is the Max Planck Institute for this is in German language, Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy. So that's why the spelling is slightly different, because this is German. And you can see this is the antenna. So you can see here this is such a big, this is the largest antenna in the world. So this antenna looks like a pond, and this is actually the parabolic reflector, and this is the focus. So it is supposed to receive electromagnetic wave from far space. So this is the reason the signal is very weak, and we need this kind of a large structure. So this is a 304.8 meter spherical reflector antenna. So you can imagine it's 304.8 meter, which is 3 times the size of a football field. So you can see here. So this is actually the actual antenna, and this whole pond is actually the reflector. So there is also something called lens antennas, but they are not so widely used actually. This is just like a lens. So if we have some dielectric material which allows the electromagnetic wave to pass through it, then just like mirrors we can implement lens, and that's a good concept, but they are rarely used, and they are usually used for extremely high frequencies like 100 gigahertz, above 100 gigahertz. So we are not going to discuss this in details. So this is all about the basic types of antennas. So let's now move to the next topic, which is radiation pattern, gain and polarization. So I think we complete this video, and I will discuss that part in another video. So this is all for today. Thank you.